All right. In the amount of time that we're going to spend together tonight, 10 individuals will die by suicide. 256 individuals will attempt suicide. My path into the suicide prevention field is not a conventional one. I'm a clinician. I work with individuals with a co-occurring disorder, so that means they have a mental health diagnosis and a substance use diagnosis, and I knew that as a clinician, suicide was something I was going to have to deal with. I knew that suicide was something I was going to encounter in my career, but that was it. My boss, Audrey, asked me a few years ago if I would be interested in becoming a mental health first aid instructor. I was like, She said, you get to go to Kansas City for a week. I said, yes, I would love to become a mental health first aid instructor. And so then my friend Rick said, well, if she gets to go to Kansas City for a week, I want to go to Kansas City for a week. So he became a mental health first aid instructor too. Now, both of us were secretly dreading that trip. Now, the reason we were dreading that trip is because we didn't know each other very well at that time. I am very extroverted, I'm a little loud, I'm a little obnoxious, and, well, Rick, he's not. And so we were both secretly dreading being stuck in a car together for 6 hours, and then being stuck in a hotel for 5 days, and then stuck in a car again for 6 hours. Little did I know that that trip would change the course of my life. There's a part of mental health first aid that you have to turn to your partner and you have to ask the question. You have to turn to your partner and you have to ask, are you thinking of suicide? So I turned to Rick and I asked, are you thinking of suicide? And Rick says, not today. I said, what do you mean not today? You're supposed to say no. They told us to say no. And so I asked him again, are you thinking of killing yourself? And he says, not today. So I kind of brushed it off. I was like, okay, well, ask me now. And so he asked, and I said, no, see, that's what you were supposed to do. And we went along the training. Later, we had a conversation about what not today meant. And in that conversation, Rick shared with me that he was a suicide attempt survivor. Now, like I said, I thought up until that point that suicide was something that those people did, that it affected those people. However, in that conversation, I realized that those people are my people. Not only did it change the course of my life, but it also changed the course of Rick's as well. Since that conversation, Rick has shared his lived experience with many people in the community through Out of Darkness walks. He has shared his lived experience with other clinicians, and he has shared his lived experience with clients. I fully believe that that conversation and the power of connection has saved lives. Like I said, I'm kind of new to the suicide prevention field. It happened about 3 years ago. And I remember being asked, one of the first times I was part of a suicide prevention event, I was asked, who did you lose to suicide? I said, well, I haven't lost anyone yet. And they said, oh, well, you're an attempt survivor. And I said, no, I'm not an attempt survivor either. And they said, well, then why are you here? That statement played in my head over and over and over again. And I began to question where I fit in to the suicide prevention field. I'm not a lost survivor. I'm not an attempt survivor, but I desperately wanted to help people. I desperately wanted to prevent suicides. But I felt as if I didn't belong in either one of those categories. It bothered me so much that I walked into Rick's office one day, full-on ugly cry, and ladies, y'all know what that is, mascara and snot everywhere. I walked into his office and I said, I don't know what my role is. I don't think I can do this anymore. And I think I'm going to withdraw from the board of the AFSP. And he said, no, don't do that. Like, just wait. Just think about it. And so I was like, okay, I'll think about it. My husband and I go to New Orleans every year. This year, we met Ray and Michelle. Now, this conversation, we met them in the same way that most people meet people on vacation. How you doing? What's your name? What do you do? Where are you from? Right? That's the typical vacation conversation. And so we were speaking, and Michelle said, well, we know what Chad does. Chad's a nurse. What do you do? And I said, oh my gosh. I work with people with co-occurring disorders, and I'm a board member for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and oh my gosh. And then I noticed the tone of their conversation change. And I thought, well, great. I have done it again. I have bored somebody with talking about how much I love what I do. But then I noticed that both Ray and Michelle had tears in their eyes. They shared with us that their son Justin had died by suicide 3 months prior. Ray, Michelle, Chad, and myself talked and cried for hours. They shared with us that it was the first time that they had been able to share how their son died and be met with empathy and understanding rather than, I'm sorry, and a quick exit. That is the power of connection. Ray and Michelle invited us to a celebration of life for Justin. They were having a second line through the French Quarter in New Orleans. For those of y'all who do not know what a second line is, a second line is where you have a brass band that plays. And for a celebration of life, the first song that the brass band plays is a very somber song. The rest of the songs that the brass band plays are very uplifting songs because you were celebrating that person's life. Ray and Michelle were incredibly brave. You can see that they did not shy away from sharing that their son died by suicide. And so as we were parading through the French Quarter, I noticed that people were stopping us. They were asking us, or they were telling us, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being honest. Me too. I'm an attempt survivor. I lost someone too. That is the power of connection. Ray and Michelle graciously said, yeah, you want to bring your family down? You want your family to attend the celebration of life? Absolutely. Bring them down. My children and my family were able to experience how suicide impacts not only a family, but a community. I know that conversation that the four of us had and being able to attend his celebration of life, I know that has far-reaching effects. Whenever I contacted Michelle a few weeks ago to ask if it was okay to share Justin and her and Ray's story, she shared with me how that conversation continues to have positive effects. That someone that was in that second line lost someone, and she knew how to reach out to the AFSP in that area and how to get them help. That is the power of connection. The fact that my children were able to be there and experience that and see how suicide impacts so many different people. I fully believe that connection could save their lives. So whenever I returned back home, I ran into Rick's office and said, "Oh, I know what my role is." He's like, okay. And I said, "My role is being able to connect with other individuals despite not having experienced exactly what they've experienced." That is the power of connection. I want to introduce you to my friends, Kevin Briggs and Kevin Berthia. Kevin Briggs is a retired California State Highway Patrolman. He has been credited with saving over 200 lives. Would you like to know what high-tech, clinical, police officer kind of thing that he does to save people's lives? It looks like you're having a bad day. What's going on? Kevin Briggs met Kevin Berthia on Kevin Berthia's worst day. Kevin Briggs has been known to, at times, actually lay down on the bridge so he can see who he's talking to, so he can connect with them. On this particular day, Kevin Berthia stood on that side of the bridge for 86 minutes. Of those 86 minutes, Officer Briggs listened for 83 of them. Because Berthia felt validated and felt connected to Briggs, he came over to the safe side of the bridge. That is the power of connection. As a matter of fact, Kevin Briggs and Kevin Berthia remain to be very good friends to this day. That is the power of connection. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death overall in the United States. It is the second leading cause of death among individuals aged 10 to 34. Mental health first aid teaches us that anyone can save a life. No matter if you're a student, you're a teacher, you are a child, you're an adult, you're a hairdresser, no matter what your role is, that you can save a life. Youth mental health first aid teaches that the number one protective factor for youth is feeling close to at least one adult. At least one. That is the power of connection. I truly believe that each one of us in this room want to help individuals. If we see someone struggling, we see someone in distress, we want to help them. But a lot of us don't know how. I don't want to make it worse. I don't know what to say. I'm here to tell you, even if you say, it looks like you're having a bad day, for the time that you're speaking with that individual, you're connecting with them. Because whenever you're talking to them, you're holding some of their pain for them. And y'all, if you're holding some of their pain, that means that just for a few minutes, they don't have to. That is the power of connection. I believe that the power of connection has the ability to save lives. I believe that if we use the power of connection, then we can see those numbers that I spoke about earlier reduce, and we can help more individuals say, "Not today." Thank you very much.